Hey, how's it going, guys? Dark here, and this is going to be part 2 of my team building tutorial. So just going to get straight into this, and hopefully it helps you out. Okay, so balance is going to be the second playstyle or type of team that I will be covering, and balance is basically the in-between of stall and hyper offense. It's basically offensive mons, but also pivots and basically pivots and mons that can take hits. Things like Ferrothorn, defensive lander as T, say like Spadef Heatran. But then you could also pair that with something, say, like a Specs Keldeo and other offensive mons like Zardex, Gardevoir, and it's basically just what it says. It is balanced, and the mon that I'm going to be building around for this is going to be Gardevoir. Something that I really like at the moment is a fella, and this is actually a team that has been already made. I'm just going to go through the building process to basically show you the thought process of everything that gets added into the team. This is a team that was actually made by Cosine 180, one of my friends. So shout outs to him for the team. But it's going to be the Gardevoir set. Obviously, give it a nice Gardevoir, right? Nice and crisp. The nice pixelate. Actually, no. This is something also to avoid doing. Don't make it like the Mega on the team builder if there's an ability that you want that isn't default. Because I actually want Trace on this and not Synchronized. It would have gotten Synchronized if I just put in Gardevoir Mega. So definitely make sure to look out for that as well. And obviously Hyper Voice, since it's absolutely amazing on this mon. Stab Hyper Voice because of the Pixelate is so goddamn powerful. And there's so little switch-ins for it in OU. And what switches on Hyper Voice doesn't really appreciate this next move, which is Focus Blast. And obviously Psyshock just hit mixed defenses and hit things like what could Psyshock hit? Things like poison types, I guess I can say, even though there aren't that many poison types. But you know what I mean, just to hit the defensive side to it's just basically double stab. But gonna run Taunt in the last move. This allows Gardevoir to beat things like Chansey, and I think even Cresselia, which is great. It means it can stall break quite effectively. Obviously not by itself, but it is definitely a very good, very good mon. But just gonna go max speed, max special attack. Just standard spread to give the 4 and Spadef just to allow it to live a couple hits a bit easier. So that's basically Gardevoir, and the one thing about Gardevoir is that it's checked quite easily by Pokemon like Metagross that like to come in on it quite easily, not even taking that much from Focus Blast. I'm pretty sure they take like half from Focus Blast, and Gardevoir can't even go for the second because Metagross does outspeed, and it even has priority Bullet Punch, which I want to say Oko's, just because of the Tough Claws boost, and it's obviously a big threat, so something that Gardevoir really appreciates having in the back is one like Ferrothorn. And Hammer Arm on Metagross is actually kind of uncommon, and it really doesn't do too much to Ferrothorn anyway. And getting off the like Iron Barb's residual plus, say if you get a Leech Seed off on Metagross is actually really nice. So obviously just going to give it the leftovers and Iron Barbs. Of course we don't want no anticipation Ferrothorn. So yeah, this is basically here just to deal with mons like Ferrothorn. It's Scarflando is another good check to Gardevoir that likes to come in on it after a mon has been sacked, for example. So Ferrothorn can switch into that, and if they go for U-turn, then Iron Barbs obviously helps wear them down. So that's basically Ferrothorn is just here to help wear down and like physical threats, basically just there to be a pivot, just for offensive momentum. And this is also this is balanced, basically just having pivots that you can switch into. And actually having switch-ins, which differs to Hyper Offense, which doesn't have, well, it rarely has switch-ins for anything. Say, one example where there would be a switch-in for something on Hyper Offense would be if you have like a Keldeo and they have a Bishop or something, because Keldeo is actually a switch-in and a counter to a Bishop. But that's Hyper Offense. This is balance, so that's another thing. We're going to keep on with the moveset. Leech Seed Protect combo, helping wear down mons like Bishop if they want to come in. Obviously, I don't really want Bishop in against this because it gets 3 SDs, but basically just to help wear down physical threats that can check Gardevoir. And last move is going to be... Why have I forgotten the last move? Oh, yeah, Spikes. Spikes also to help wear down things. So basically, just Ferrothorn is here to wear down things for Gardevoir, just so that they're less of a threat. And going to give it a relaxed nature. Just relaxed because it's minus speed, which means that Durable will be doing more damage, and also because I want it to be more of a defensive Ferrothorn to take on things like Mega B, Landorus a lot better. And the spread I'm going to be using is just 252 in HP, 88 in defense, and then the rest in special defense. This just allows it to take hits from both defenses a lot better. Things like Dracos from Latios, U-turns from Mega B, and that's basically Ferrothorn. Just there to check things like, well, not check, but counter things like Metagross, or it's supposed to. Obviously, if someone's running some clean innovation like HP Fire Metagross, then this is obviously not going to be a counter, but that's where my next mon comes into play, which is actually going to be a defensive Landorus T. Now, this is on the team as a sort of, like, Ferrothorn is kind of like the pseudo counter to things like Mega Beedrill, since this team is kind of Volt Turn weak at the moment, the core that I have. Since mons like, say, Landorus T, for example, can come in on Gardevoir, scare me out into Ferrothorn, go for U-turn, and if they have a Magnezone in the back along with a Mega Beedrill, then my Ferrothorn will be getting trapped since I'm not running Shed Shell, and then I lose my Ferrothorn, and then I've got nothing for Beedrill, so Landorus is basically sort of like a backup, and it also helps me out with Gallade. And it's just a really nice pivot in general at the moment, I feel. So just going to be using like standard Earthquake. Edgequake, it's a nice coverage on that. I'm going to give it Stealth Rocks because this is obviously my rocker as well. Hazards are really nice on this team since they help wear down threats like Mega Beedrill, which can be quite annoying. Even though I do have the Landorus T. Landorus T can get worn down quite easily over time because teams that include Mega B normally are built to put on pressure to mons like defensive Landorus and Ferrothorn. And obviously just U-turn in the last slot for offensive momentum, which is very important. So just going to go Impish with basically just going to go max HP, and then 88 in speed just to outspeed Adamant Bishop, and then the rest goes into defense. I think it's 248 HP just for the leftovers number, and then it's 172 in defense. So I think that's the thread. But this basically just allows it to outspeed Adamant Bishop, which is otherwise kind of annoying. And if they try to go for knockoff, because most Landoruses don't run any speed, so Bishop often try to go for knockoff against defensive Landoruses in case they try to like rocks or anything, trying to play around Sucker. So being able to outspeed that is really nice. And Jolly Bishop, I think at +1 can't actually knock me out. It's only Adamant that can, which is why I put enough for Adamant Bishop and not Jolly. So that's pretty much it for Lando. Like I said before, just sort of like a secondary backup check for things like Beedrill, things like opposing Landorus. Landorus is actually a really nice pivot for opposing Landorus because they do tend to go for knockoff, trying to knock off a potential Scarf of your own Landorus. Since Scarf Lando is probably the most common set right now, since it checks a lot of the metagame, a lot of the new Megas that are quite big threats, and it also checks Greninja. So it's definitely nice to get off a slow U-turn against them, even if I am running speed. And it's basically, it just helps me out with things like Gallade, unless they're running Ice Punch. If Gallade's running Ice Punch, I kind of just straight lose, but most of them, I think the most common set is just Sword Stance, Knockoff as the filler move, so I don't really worry too much about Gallade. And it's basically just like there for Life Orb Drill. It's just a really good pivot and a really good wall for some certain mons, but fourth mon, first thing I want to do is look at the viability thread, and obviously because I have knowledge of what all these pokes are. If you don't, then please do research them. Say, see something that you might not recognize. Say, if you see a Clefable there, you can just look straight up on Clefable, and it gives you the analysis of everything about them on, what sets it can run. I probably should have gone over this in the start, but I can just go over it now, it's fine. So, Magikarp Carmine, for example, you can look up what typing it is. I'm very sure. Yep, fairy typing. And it basically just tells you everything about the mon. So, look at my team. I do have Ferrothorn. Gardevoir is quite good against Clefable because of its high special defense, so this is not a mon that I'm weak to. So I'm just going to go back out here. One mon that I am quite afraid of at the moment, though, I did just mention it now if I can find it, is Bishop. Now, the reason for this is because of its ability Defiant, I cannot intimidate it, since intimidating, it lowers its attack by 1, yeah, but its Defiant boosts its attack by 2 stages, so it ends up getting a +1 to attack. Ferrothorn is set up fodder, and Gardevoir gets OHKO'd by Sucker Punch, so Bishop is definitely something that I will need something on my team for. And a very good mon on balance and offense in general to deal with Bishop is Keldeo, since it can actually switch in on any attack. Obviously losing your item to a knockoff can be annoying, but Keldeo is just a really good switch into Bishop. And I'm going to be using Scarf on this team. Another thing that my team is looking weak to is if I go back here, is one of the S-rank mons, which is actually Greninja. A lot of teams are weak to Greninja. It's really hard to prepare for at the moment, and there's not really much you can do.
But say if Greninja has HP Fire, then it beats my entire team at the moment, since they also carry Gunk Shot, which could OHKO Gardevoir. So this is also, you can actually switch this in, and barring you don't get frozen, the surprise factor of having a Choice Scarf can actually give you early kills on Greninjas, which can be really, really nice. So I was just going to use Secret Sword, some nice Scald, and then just Scald for the accuracy and the burn chance, and then obviously Hydro Pump for the more powerful option when you need to go for it. And then as my last move, I'm going to use Icy Wind over anything. You could argue that my little Gyarados weak, but I do have Ferrothorn in the back. Although Gyarados runs Crunch now, which means Ferrothorn is not as good of a counter as it was before. But Icy Wind just basically prevents it from getting any speed boosts, and then one of my other mons can just come in and revenge it. And Scarf Keldeo, if the Gyarados is Mega Evolved, checks Gyarados even at +1 anyway, because it still outspeeds. Maybe even +2, I think it outspeeds at +2 Adamant Gyarados, but that's another thing. And this is basically just, yeah, to check Mega Lopunny as well, if they want to try and OHKO with a second move on the switch in. And basically just surprise factor, things like Dragonite, which can also be annoying. Icy Wind is just a good last move, and just going to go Timid with 252 in each. This means going Timid I can outspeed things like +2 Adamant Gyarados, +2 Adamant Megatar, which is actually really, really nice, and it's definitely worth going Timid over Modest on this set. So that's pretty much Keldeo. All it's there really is for Bisharp and to check things like Greninja and Mega Lopunny, which are otherwise really annoying for the team because Mega Lopunny run Ice Punch, so Landorus isn't really too much of a check, so Lopunny is still a big threat, probably the biggest threat to this team in general. But there's really not much you can do. Something to always remember is that you're not going to be able to check every single mon in the tier with a combination of 6, and you're always going to be weak to something, so you can't build the perfect team, but you can do the best that you can do, and this is what I'm doing now. Just preparing, looking at the viability thread, seeing which threats are in OU, seeing what I need to prepare for, and basically everything I can prepare for that I possibly can, I'm doing right now. So that's basically Keldeo, what it's there to do, and just going to move on to the next mon. So I got 4 mons, and one thing that I seem to be lacking is any form of hazard control, like a defogger or a spinner. And whilst Rapid Spin would be appreciated on my team since I am running spikes, I don't really care too much if I get rid of my own spikes, since I wouldn't really put them up, and they're only for the temporary residual anyway. So I'm going to be running Latios. Another reason why I'm actually going to be using Defog over Rapid Spin is because if I put Latios on my team, it gives me something for Keldeo, which is a very big threat at the moment, right here, sitting in the A+ rank, and yeah, my team's just really weak to Keldeo at the moment, so it also gives me something for Keldeo, so Latios just fits really well, in my honest opinion. And I'm actually going to be using the Roost set just to help it survive longer, basically. And it makes it a better Keldeo check because it doesn't get worn down as easily over time. And also just going to give it Defog and Roost. Just basically for its longevity, and well, like I said, I'm not going to repeat myself, it's just to switch in more times. It's basically the glue of the team, because if my opponent gets rid of this and they have a Keldeo, my team gets destroyed. Gardevoir's the only thing that can take like a Hydro Pump or any hit in general, or my own Keldeo, which is Scarf, and it can't even OHKO back, so yeah, Latios is just a really nice fit for this team since it checks Keldeo, it gives me hazard removal, and it's actually really good at breaking opposing teams as well with like moves like Draco, and which is a really, 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 really powerful move with a Life Orb from a Latios. So that's basically Latios and why it's on the team. So I'm fairly happy with the 5 that I have at the moment, and I'm just basically going to have another look back at the viability thread just to see if there's anything that I have an outstanding weakness to. But I am quite happy with the core that I have. Greninja, I've got Keldeo for Greninja. I have got Ferrothorn to switch into Greninja if it does not have HP Fire or Low Kick, which most of them do, but hey ho, it's a switch in. Quote unquote switching. Landorus T, I have my own Landorus T and my Ferrothorn. Latios, can be a bit of a threat because my only switch into that's damage calculator, not showdown. The only switch in that I have to Latios is my Ferrothorn, which can actually get worn down by Dracos quite a lot. Like after a few Dracos, it can get worn down quite easily since I am running a defensive spread, and despite having Spadef EVs, it can definitely get worn down since Draco from Latios is nothing to laugh at, but so maybe another Draco resistance would be appreciated. Metagross, I have both my my Metagross, my Landorus, which can check it decently, and my my own Ferrothorn, which can get off some nice residual, and as long as it isn't running something like Hammer Arm, which I'd probably scout for anyway, then I should be fine against Metagross, to be honest. Thunderous, I have not thought about Thunderous too much, but Latios can actually deal quite well with Thunderous. It doesn't even get 2 hit KOs by HP Ice, which is nice. Ferrothorn, not really. Scarf Keldeo can get the surprise factor and check it. Gardevoir can take a hit. So I'm not really too worried about Thunderous. Altaria. Now Altaria is something that I'm actually quite worried about since obviously if it's like the Fire Blast set, basically special set runs through my entire team at the moment. Because if it has Fire Blast, Ferrothorn's not really a check. And something that can check or deal with Altaria that can also switch into Dracos is actually a Heatran. So Heatran seems to be the perfect fit for the moment. And what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to definitely put leftovers on there just to help it live more hits and to increase its longevity. And I'm actually going to be using sort of like a stall breaking set just to partner well with Gardevoir to break mons like Chansey, which can be annoying for Gardevoir despite it having Taunt. I do believe that if I go for Taunt and they predict the Taunt and say go for Seismic Toss or something, my Gardevoir's lost like 36% for absolutely nothing, and then it gets worn down really easily. So this is also just another really nice mon for Chansey, since it actually baits it out with things like Magma Storm. Well, it obviously doesn't bait it out with Magma Storm, but Heatran does bait out Chansey, and if I go for Magma Storm, they are trapped and they cannot switch out, meaning that Natural Cure will not activate when I go for Toxic. And I also have Taunt on this to stop them healing up. And finally, Earth Power for opposing Heatrans. I did previously have Protect on this, but Earth Power did just seem to work a lot better. Shout outs to Cosine for the change. He changed it for me. Now, we did originally have Modest on here, me and Cosine. Well, I'm not going to say me and Cosine because we didn't decide this. It was all Cosine, alright? It's all Cosine. Cosine the Lord. Just shout outs to that man right there. But we did originally have Modest on this with obviously Max and then Foreign Spadef. But we figured out. I keep saying we. Cosine figured out that basically Mew outsped us, so we now feel a need to run Timid just so that Mew can't outspeed us and go for Taunt. That means that we get off the Toxic on that, and obviously Synchronize does not activate and Toxic us back because we are a Steel type and we are immune to that. So we now run Timid, and this is basically how, to quote my friend Rav right now, because he wanted me to show you guys, how you turn a good team into a Lord squad. To quote that man right there. So basically use it. Use it, see what you're weak to, edit. That is the way you do it. And as long as you have common sense, you will find out what you are weak to. And also using the viability thread is another great thing to do, as I've shown. So yeah, that's basically there to deal with things like Altaria. Basically another switch in for basically a pseudo switch in for things like Draco from Latios if Ferrothorn is weakened, and I need it for other mons like Beedrill. And basically Heatran's just a great fit for this team. So that's basically the team. Obviously there are going to be things that I'm weak to. I am weak to Mega Lopunny despite having checks for it. It is still a huge threat if they obviously don't fall for the the Specs bluff. But no good player really will keep Lopunny and Keldeo not knowing the choice item. Obviously I can use Protect with Ferrothorn, but that's just 50-50 mind games and I can't really rely on that. I mean, it lives an Ice Punch, but after Whittling, it cannot. So that's definitely something that I'm weak to. Something else that I'm weak to is Gengar, looking at the team. Gengar is something that I kind of have to sack something and then check it somehow. Send Ferrothorn in, hope that I live a Focus Blast and then Gyro Ball it. But yeah, it's basically, there's just some ones that you can't prepare for on a team. You can only prepare for so much on a team, like I've just said before. And that's basically going to be the team. But yeah, there's no such thing as a perfect team, unfortunately. If there was, everybody would use it. So that would be kind of boring, but yeah, that's basically the team, and been really happy with this team lately. It's been the one that I've actually been using. Balance is really nice to use right now. So shout outs again to Cosine for the team, but that is going to be the end of the video for Balance. Apologise that this went up quite a while after the Hyper Offense episode, but main reason for that is because I've been really busy around the Christmas holidays, visiting relatives and different things like that. So I do apologise for that, but yeah, hoping this has helped you, and I'll see you in the stall episode. Peace.